Good afternoon, everybody.
Good afternoon.
Hi.
Nice to see some faces. I haven't been here for a while. Nice to see you. So we'll cut to the chase, as they say. We have two esteemed speakers. We're very fortunate that you're here with us to speak. Particularly, as we know from the news, things seem to be quite fluid on the ground in the Middle East, in Syria, on the border with the Golan and Israel, on the east side, the north side. So things are fluid in the area. So we're very fortunate to have two leading experts on this issue. To my left is Major General Avi Mizrachi. Avi Mizrachi is the Executive Vice President for Business Development in Israel and Southeast Asia for the Elbit Systems. Elbit Systems is a major company based in Israel, and he's been with them since 2013 as a Senior Vice President in Corporate Development and Marketing. Major General Mizrachi was with the Israeli IDF for more than 33 years before resigning and joining the business world. Very briefly, Professor David Menashri is the founding professor of the Iranian Studies Department in Tel Aviv University, or the founding director of the Alliance Center for Iranian Studies at Tel Aviv University. He's a leading scholar on Iran and the Middle East and has published many books and spoken at very important international venues dealing with Israel, the region, and Iran, and also served with the government as a senior advisor in various capacities. So we're really very fortunate to have two leading experts on these issues, on these timely issues. So,
Don't tell Israelis to speak louder.
Okay, good afternoon. As mentioned, my name is Avi, and I retired 4.5 years from the Israeli forces after 32 years of service, and my last assignment, I was commanding the Central Command of Israel. Central Command means the West Bank, Israelis, Palestinians, human rights entities, you name it. Challenging one. Before that, I commanded I was the chief of the ground forces of Israel, and before that, I was the chief of logistics and technology in the general staff. And most of my career I did in the field as an armor officer, commanding the Golan Heights Division, and many other assignments, including spending 2 years in the United States as a liaison officer to the U.S. Army Trader in Virginia, nice place. Well, everything is in the internet and everything is in the news, so you know probably most about what happened the last night in Israel. I would elaborate on it a bit from our point of view those days. When we say that the Hezbollah in Lebanon, as a proxy of Iran, has right now more than 100,000 missiles aiming to Israel, it means that those missiles somehow got into Lebanon. It means that our strategy at that time, and I was in uniform at that time, and I'm not criticizing, but I'm saying that the strategy at that time was that we have to follow them, and we didn't chase them and destroy them before arriving into Lebanon. That was the strategy. Many reasons for this strategy, but that's the way that the Israeli government approved the IDF to deal with those arms coming into Lebanon. We put some red lines that we marked some red lines that we didn't enforce, and the results are right now that they have many missiles precise missiles, less precise missiles, heavy warheads, and less heavier in Lebanon. The strategy of recently since the civil war in Syria, before the Iranian got in, was that we won't allow anyone, not only the Iranians, also the jihad entities, to get and to establish a military force around the border in the Golan Heights. Because right now we are from the north, we have a front with Lebanon and Hezbollah. From the south, we have Hamas and its arsenal, and we didn't want to open another one in the east border in Syria. So the strategy was to prevent any kind of military force around the border with Syria, because the border in Syria, since the Yom Kippur War, was the quietest one in Israel. Okay? Since the Yom Kippur War, it was the quietest border in Israel. It doesn't mean that we didn't fight the Syrians, but we fought in Lebanon. It was good for both countries to fight in Lebanon and not in the Golan Heights and in Syria. So it was like a mutual interest. I don't know how it worked, but it worked. So the strategy of Israel right now is to prevent it in the Syrian border, and that's what we said out loud, and that's what the way that we act. Now, we have, I would say, intelligence superiority in Syria. And everything that gets in, we have our eyes on it. We mark it, we put it in our files in the computers, and when time comes, if we need or decide to hit it, we are doing it. So what we have seen in the past months, and it's different from what happened years ago, that the Syrians, the Iranians, sorry, are trying to build a real military force in the Golan Heights. When I'm saying military force, I don't mean Iranian soldiers, but proxies. Like they take extremists from Pakistan, Afghanistan, you name it. They train them and they bring them to Syria. But the commanders and the leaders are Iranians with uniform from the Revolutionary Guard of Iran. So they start building and piling up UAVs, unmanned air vehicles, and missiles from different ranges and different warheads and different precision. And whenever we thought it's too much, we took an action in order to stop it and to destroy it. Sometimes it was too successful, but we've done it. So the last retaliation that we had 2 weeks ago, 10 days ago, sorry, was a new transfer of 200 or so precise missiles and heavy warhead to Syria. And we did it very badly. And we knew from our intel that they are going to get their revenge, if I can say so. And normally in the Golan Heights and normally on military installations, not on the civilian settlements or cities in the Golan Heights. So we took an action 2 weeks ago and decided to evacuate our bases in the Golan Heights, mainly take the troops out of the field. And we were waiting to understand what's going on and where and when they're going to attack. The show in that the Prime Minister gave a week ago was coordinated give the show, it wasn't political. Okay, maybe he gained some points, but it wasn't political. It was a strategy to do it in order to, by the revealing what we had, first to convince here if President Trump needed to be convinced, but to convince here the people that it's right to withdraw from the Iran deal, and second, to show Iran that we are serious about, and we are serious about their capabilities, building capabilities in Iran Heights. Well, it succeeded for the time, and the retaliation that they planned to do the day after the Netanyahu's revealing in the media was postponed, and it happened last night. Actually, nothing happened in Golan Heights, okay? Most of their missiles were gunned down by our Iron Dome, and part of them, because they were very in a hurry, because they knew that we are going to hunt them, they fired it very quickly. So it wasn't precise enough to get to our soil or our bases. Okay, so no one harmed and no damage being done, but still they jeopardized our sovereignty on the Golan Heights, and we retaliated back very, very in severe manners, and well, I would say we just waited for the good cause to do it. Okay, it was a good cause because the war does, I mean, unlikely the war is with us right now because they fired to our soil and to our state, like we are defending ourselves. The statements that the Israeli government put out loud is that we won't allow them to build their military force in Syria. Not at all, and if we take what it takes to do it, we will prevent it. It means that it's a changed strategy, the one that we had a decade ago in Israel, which allowed Hezbollah to have what they have today. So I think that the Israeli society also understands that it's not that we are seeking for war, but we are not afraid for war. If we have to do it, we will do it, because if we let them to do it and to pile up their military force in the Golan Heights, in 10 years from now, it will be much more difficult and much more, I would say, costly to Israel. So right now, I think that if you combine all together the Iran thing in the Golan Heights, you combine the President Trump announcement about withdrawing from the deal. In 3 days from now, the American embassy is going to move to Jerusalem. And in May 15, next Wednesday, we have what they call the Nakba, okay? And all the riots and the demonstrations in Gaza Strip. It means that we have a very, very complicated and sensitive, fragile situation right now in Israel. And we have to be very careful because no one wants a war, but you know, sometimes wars happen without anyone wants them, but they happen. Look at Lebanon 2 in 2006. That would happen. With the 67, the 6-day war, the same thing. So, almost not the same thing, but you can make the comparison and find some similarities. So, what we are saying that we have to think about the future and the strategy that we are going to draw for Israel. But I think that the people right now, the leadership, is cautious enough to understand the situation and to take the right decisions to do it. And I'm saying that, as I see it, it's not a political, they're not trying to gain some points, and they really care about the Israel and its future. So that's what we are doing right now. my assessment of the situation right now is that the last night, it's over. No one wants to deteriorate it anymore. Not the Israelis, not the Iranians, not the Europe, not America. So I think that it's being contained as it was. And we'll see the next step. If the Iranians will keep sending cargo planes from Tehran to Damascus International, we have to do it again. So we'll see. We hope that they will stop. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I think that my conclusion from what I heard that we are living in an interesting time. But more seriously, that nothing is definitive. We are only a couple of days after President Trump announced the withdrawal from the nuclear deal. I don't think that we have already digested what it means. It's not yet clear what is the American policy. The door for renegotiation is not closed. Europe is in a very tough situation of not knowing where they can go or they should go. One thing is clear, the gulf between the United States and Europe is very problematic, even from the Israeli point of view, certainly from the point of view of Europe and the United States. The asset that President Obama had of the transatlantic alliance does not exist anymore. But I want to devote my talk to a bit about Iran and the impact on Israel, and focusing more on the nuclear issue and such a way to supplement what we heard about the situation in Iran. I think that after a long time in history, Iran is living in an era of euphoria. Everything works good for them. I would say even the statement by President Trump, some Iranian politics good for them, but I come to it. There are changes in the Middle East that really have dramatically changed the region. One thing is the weakness of the Arab world. That's obvious that today, when you speak about superpowers or powers in the Middle East, no Arab country is part of it. You can speak about Iran, Turkey, Israel, none of them is an Arab country. And for me, as grown up in Israel, in the early days of the state, that the greatest fear of Israel was the strength of the Arab nation state and the strength of the Arab armies. Today, the nightmare of Israel is the weakness of the Arab armies. Because the Arab states are so weak, and I think it's not good because the non-Arab entities, mainly Iran, Shiite, are gaining the strength. Now, in this sense, I think it's not that good for us because with two Arab countries we have peace. Saudi Arabia we have almost peace, but not officially. And Morocco just cut diplomatic relations with Iran. So with the Sunni Arab countries, we are in better shape. The nation-state system, that was the most important thing in the 20th century, doesn't have much validity today. What are the nation-states? What's nation-state? It's Iraq, Syria, Libya. Look around you, you see that there are other more important loyalties, either to sub-national, to the ethnic group, or the supranational to Islam, Shia, Sunni. The superpower in the Middle East, the game has changed. Now maybe this week we can start to see again a change, because in the last few years, the Americans were on the way out, and the Russians, mainly since 2015, are in. Now, how the Arab countries feel when their superpower is actually neglecting them and leaving the region? It started with Obama, continued with Trump. So maybe this is the new thing happening, that with all the mess in the Middle East, the United States cannot rely only on Israel to do the job, that they have to be in. In the next term also, we see some changes in the Middle East. And Iran, that has been marginalized in the Middle East. When you spoke about the Middle East, no one 40, 50 years ago was speaking about Iran. Iran was not a country. Iran was a country, was a nation state. But it was loyal to the United States, good relation with the United States. It was marginal. It's very bizarre to say Iran marginal, because it sits at the border of the Soviet Union, or the Russian, for the republics of the Soviet Union, on the Persian Gulf. It cannot be marginal. With 85 million people, it cannot be marginal. But still, the center was Egypt, Israel, Syria, Israel. And today we see that the power of Iran, Turkey, the non-Arab countries, have been much more meaningful than before. With the Arab Spring, that some call the Islamic winter, that came with big hope for democracy and change and did not deliver. It's actually the Arab state system has been broken. And rather than states, you have all kind of clans, tribes, loyalties. In Iraq, Kurds, Sunnis, Shiites. In Syria, you don't know how many refugees. The whole system was transformed. And in the midst of all this, there is a new power. The power of Shiite Islam and the power of Iran. So who made Iran so powerful? Well, first it's the United States of America. It's not Obama. Let's be honest. It started with Bush the father, continued with Bush the son, continued with Obama, and now with Trump. We made, again, I don't know. One thing I cannot claim to understand anything is the policy of your president. Okay? But I don't know what will happen. Maybe everything will be okay. Maybe everything will be wonderful. But in 1991, the American-led coalition destroyed the military power of Iraq, the biggest enemy of Iran, with whom they had 8 years of war and maybe 1 million casualties on both sides. This removed the enemy number one of Iran, from their western border. 2002, they moved to Afghanistan and removed the enemy number 2 of Iran. Now, if you are a nation state like Iran, and America, the great Satan, as they say, removes the 2 main enemies from their east and west, let's make Iran a superpower. Well, the Iranians have their own bizarre way to say thank you to the United States. But it's fact remains. And then the biggest leap was the nuclear deal. Let me confess here that when the deal was actually advanced to the point that it was clear that they are going to it, I was not against it. Because if you delay the nuclear, you remember? I don't think it was the wrong thing. It was not the worst thing against for Israel, the deal. And as you can see, many of our generals and the head of the Mossad and the internal security, they don't, even the current chief of staff said the deal was good.
No, he didn't say it's good, he said we can tolerate it.
Yeah, we can. Because it delayed for 10 years while the military attack by Israel, which was unconceivable for me that Israel will do alone his job. And I'm sure that General Mizrachi will maybe say a few words about it. We could delay it by 2 years. Now, that's why I thought that this is a bad deal, but if you speak with the Iranians and get to delay it, and we know everyone knew the Iranians are cheating. Okay? That's the cheating is one of their 10 commandments of Shiite Islam, okay? Because they have a concept that it's permissible to lie if by so doing you defend your religion and yourself. The taqiyya, the concept, who knows Arabic, that's the concept of your Shiism. You can hide your true belief. And the Iranians have already admitted twice that they have cheated on the nuclear issue. So no one really was surprised, would be surprised if you had done. So the nuclear deal was the biggest gift based on a naive perception, which is very European and Christian, that if you are nice to them, they will be nice to you. And in the midst of all this, we overlooked the threat that I think more significant for the security of Israel. The nuclear deal, in my view, humbly say, is the deal that has been to be dealt with the United States and the world, because the Iranian nuclear threat was never the threat only for Israel. It was a threat to the enemy number one of Iran, is Western civilization. And we, in a way, Israel was in dilemma. If you don't speak about it, the world will forget it. If you speak about it, the world will think it's the Jews' problem. And for some people, it's like, that's the problem, and then go to hell. So, here is and in the midst of this, we neglected the Iranian expansion to other. After the Iran-Iraq war, they have actually withdrawn from their ideology of exporting the revolution. With everything settled around them, the ambitions came back and they speak like the Iranian Empire. We are empire. And we ought to be on the Mediterranean because we have been there under Cyrus the Great. And we are Islam. There is a concept in Islam we call al-Qura. al-Qura, who speaks Arabic here? Or Hebrew? It's the same. Hakrayot. al-Qura is the main city of Islam, the main citadel of Islam. And there was a Syrian Arab Christian ideologue who intellectually spoke in the late 19th century that Mecca is the center of universe, the center of Islam. And every Muslim must obey toward the orders come from Mecca. Iranians today speak that Tehran is al-Qura. You know what insult is to Islam? And they go on and say, if Egypt would fall, nothing will happen to Islam. But if Iran would fall, that's the end of Islam. We are Islam. And by constitution, Iran obliged to interfere wherever there are dispossessions. And wherever there are people, Muslims suffer. So this, all of a sudden, you know, I'm very sensitive to sense of humor and laughter. You know, I once commissioned a student of mine to check pictures of Ayatollah Khomeini and find pictures in which he's smiling. There is only one, or maybe 1.5. The most famous one is that Arafat visited Iran a few weeks after the establishment of the Islamic Republic. He kissed Khomeini, and I don't know, he laughed, Khomeini laughed. You don't find him laughing. He is always angry. And after the nuclear deal, look at the pictures of Zarif. All of a sudden, they are successful. Now, we have some similarities between us, Jews and Israelis, and Shiites, Iranians. Excuse me for saying so. We are both the chosen people. We both believe that God has chosen us to be the main force in human history. We also believe that we have been wronged in history. We deserve much more, and actually the war was against us. But there's another thing, maybe if I may. I think there are countries that don't know how to cope with failure. There are also countries that don't know how to cope with success. It happened to us after '67. And it happened to the Iranians after the world opened or removed Iraq and Afghanistan. And they think, in Hebrew we say something that they are not recorded, that the P goes into their mind. They all of a sudden became drunk with their success, and they think that they deserve everything and can get everything. And here is where President Trump's coming. Because what it speaks about the limit of their chutzpah. Again, I don't know if it's good or bad for the law. But I know that the Iranians started for the first time being frightened from the President of the United States only when Trump came to power. Why? Because they didn't understand it. Well, neither did I. But there is someone there that they don't know what to expect. And this was a change. Now, what is the impact of this? Again, I'm a student of history. I don't know what will happen tomorrow. We have difficulty as historians to prophesize about the past. We certainly don't know what will happen in the future. But it is clear that this is, from what I hear from Iranian intellectuals, this is a crucial moment for the government of President Rouhani. He pretends business as usual, but he knows that he may lose his office these days. Why? Because there was a competition between two schools of thought in Iran. One led by Rouhani and Zarif, who advocated negotiating with the United States, and the other school by Khamenei and the Revolutionary Guards, the radicals, extremists, whatever. See what the radicals say today. Our way was the right way. You have taken us to areas, you promised us that with the deal, sanctions will be removed, life will be better, and you see, when he told you cannot trust America, and Khamenei said it very clear and loud. Don't trust the Americans, they will stab you in the back. And they say, to prove that our way was right, Iran is strong today. But it's strong because we continued with our regional policy, advancing in Yemen, in Iraq, in Syria, in Lebanon. Where would have been today with Trump if we were not there? So in this competition in home, I think the radicals are gaining it. On the other hand, many people who supported the deal with the United States, they supported Rouhani, they elected him again last year because he promised that he will bring the oil money to the table of the poor people. And he said clear and loud, I'm going to bring you back the value of the rial, the currency, and the value of your passport, your dignity. And he did not believe it. Rather than spending the money to elevate the life of the people of Iran, he put the money, billions of dollars a year, to pay to Syria, Iraq, Yemen, and other places. And many victims from their generals and colonels have been killed in Syria, and people are asking, why do we have to do something? One of the concepts, and I conclude with this, of current administration in America is that with withdrawing from the deal and reimposing sanctions, the Iranian people will change the regime. Ever since the first day of the Islamic Revolution in Iran, which is almost 40 years ago, I hear this idea, the change of regime. I had a friend which I admired, he was very prominent in our government, always said in 6 months this regime will be collapsed. And ultimately, one day, I told you about, ultimately, you will be right. Because this regime will be changed. But at this time, you are prematurely right. And to be prematurely right is as bad, as wrong, as to be wrong. We don't know when people in history march and start changing their system. In Hebrew, we have a wonderful song. It says, "Pitom kam adam baboker u'margish she'u'am matchil lelekhet." All of a sudden, a nation wakes up and starts moving. I like this all of a sudden, because big events in history don't send us an alarm. You know, beware of July 14th, we are going to the Bastille, or beware of this day, we are going to Moscow, and this day. We don't know when people start moving. One thing is clear, that the ground is fertile. People are sick and tired from this promise. In 1979, this regime came with the promise, Islam is the solution. In 2009, when millions of people went to the streets in Iran, they put a question mark, is Islam the solution? Last December and January, when people went to the streets, they already said Islam is not the solution. And I think the damage that this regime has done to the idea that Islam is the solution is the worst thing that happened to Islam for many, many centuries. So ultimately, the people would one day raise their voice. I cannot guarantee when it will happen. But I know right now that the people are dissatisfied, disillusioned. To a degree, can I say a story here to conclude my talk? It's a story about a teacher at school asked the children, who knows what is the height, how tall is our president? And one of the children said that, you know, I know teacher, you know, he is 90 centimeters. I don't know how much is it in each or whatever feet. It's like this. Less than 1 meter. That's it. Our president is 90 centimeters. Shame on you. How you dare speaking like this? It's good that the security people are not here to arrest you. And the other guy, it's his child, said, no, teacher, I know for sure. So how much, what do you say? 2 meter 40. But even in the NBA, they don't have 2 meter 40. You are stupid, I don't want to hear you from you. And one of the kids said, I know for sure, teacher, let me try. I said, no, I don't want to. Yeah. Hamid said, I know for sure. I said, okay, Hamid, what do you say? Said our president is 1 meter 80. More or less accurate. And she asked him, Hamid, explain to your friends, how do you know this stupid friends of you don't know this? He said, teacher is very simple. My father is 1 meter 90. Last night we watched TV, and I heard my father whispering to my wife, you see this, you know, they watched the president on TV, you see this president, he reached me up to here. For many people, they reached up to here. But from here to go and change the regime, I leave it to you at least.
So thank you both very much. So we have about a half an hour or so for questions and discussion. So I was going to speak, but I defer to the esteemed guests to give them the floor. But I just want to say briefly, the Iranian regime, as you know, uses anti-Semitism in the most pernicious way possible. It demonizes Israel, but also demonizes Jews in a way that the Europeans did in the Protocols of the Elders of Zion and with Nazi propaganda. And I'm not an expert on Iran, and I'm not an expert on military issues, but I know that from a philosophical level, people like Emmanuel Levinas and others, when we look at a social movement that cannot recognize the other as fully human, that ideology has to be confronted. You can't make peace with an ideology that doesn't see the other as human and denigrates them or incites to exterminate them. Philosophically, that ideology has to be confronted and defeated. So I started with that. Today, my question is Iran suddenly overextended? Now that Trump left the deal, and he's snapping back sanctions. Airbus and Boeing, for example, were just informed yesterday that they have 6 months to finish their work with Iran. That the Europeans, David, as you said, I don't know if they're going to be sticking with Iran after Khomeini said yesterday not to trust the Europeans. And now Trump is really, it seems that he's enforcing, or he's intending to enforce sanctions, but the Europeans may have to reluctantly side with the Americans. So if Iran is suddenly overextended in Yemen, in Syria, in Lebanon, if the currency is dipping now I think into record lows, and the people are starting to look around, can the Iranians, for the first time perhaps in decades, are they suddenly politically weaker? Are they overextended? I've heard that they're sitting ducks in Syria militarily. Is this a paper tiger that's beginning to fall apart, or is this something more long sustainable? I turn it to both of you.
There's a few words, and I think General Mizrachi will be better than me speaking about the strategic situation of Iran today. So I think you are right. The Iranian ambitions exceeded Iran's grasp. They've been involved in so many different cases, and it became an issue in debate inside Iran. Why do we need Syria? And in the demonstrations a few months ago, people say, why should I care for Gaza or Lebanon? My life is sacrificed to Iran. The Iranians claim that defending Syria is the strategic depth to defend Tehran. And one of the Ayatollahs, which is very close to Ayatollah Khamenei, even say that Syria is the 35th province of Iran. And you know, I don't know how many of you know that Iran has only 31 provinces. So I was wondering, what is the 35th province? Well, probably he counted Lebanon, Iraq, Yemen, and Syria. So, and he said that Syria is more important to the security of Iran than Khuzestan. Now, this is a chutzpah, because Khuzestan is the province of oil, is the province of poor people, is the province that fought in the Iran-Iraq war, and so many people were killed. How you can say that Syria is more important than Khuzestan? And I think that people started understanding that these slogans are not going to provide a remedy for the Iranian people. They not only send the Revolutionary Guards to Syria, they also send the regular army. For not many countries in the world would send troops 600 kilometers, I don't know how many kilometers there are. You will send hundreds of kilometers out of your borders to, and Iran planned basically to re-establish their Shiite empire. And now it's just to say that it is the Shiite crescent. Well, it's not Shiite crescent, it became a full moon. It's gone from the Houthis in Yemen to Iraq, Shiite in Saudi Arabia. We live in a very sensitive region of Saudi Arabia. The oil-rich region of Saudi Arabia is populated with Shiite Muslims. So it's all of a sudden you can see that the emerging power of Shiite Islam, and they bring, as General Mizrachi say, that the militias from Afghanistan, and you know how much it costs for the Iranian? They pay their salary. Every Afghan or Pakistani or whatever militia people of soldiers, fighters is killed, he automatically becomes Iranian citizen, and the government will pay his family until the family is dead, and they also provide them with housing. And many people ask, why our children don't have housing? It was less than demonstration. My brother was killed in the war with Iraq. We don't have home, but you provide housing to Afghanis and others. So calculations are that the Iranians are spending several billions, and some say $6, $7, and $8 billion a year. So all the money that they got from the unfreezing of the money, the sanctions money, that many of them will go to the Iranians. They go all to the Syrians to adventure. So all this is good reason to believe that people will be fed up. But there is another thing that prevents it. This regime is so cruel, and they suppress their people in ways that you cannot imagine. And there is, I think, an American phrase that said, nothing succeeds like suppress. That's what you say, or something like this. They see success with suppress. So that's, and they learn the lesson of their own revolution. They mentioned this people, Mizrachi, that they say that we are not going to let them, the opposition, to do to us what we did to the Shah. He tolerated opposition, and they turn over the whole thing. And they, from the first day, they are wonderful to fight their enemies in the name of God, as though they only are the people who have God, and they know exactly what is the will of God. And I think when you allow yourself to judge and kill and execute, it's much more difficult to resist. It's not impossible, but it's more difficult.
No, I can say just about the interest in the area. That we're talking about Iran, but we have Russia in presence, very strong presence in the area, and they're not going to go anywhere. Okay. And yes, we deal with them. We talk to them. Our Prime Minister just visited Putin last day. But still, there are a strong power over there, and they see their presence over there as a strategic one. So, in order, that's my assumption, I mean, that's my forecast for the future in the area, is that we hit Iran badly. I think that if we take together the pulling out of the deal, I think that the European Union will follow Trump, because if I'm in the business world, if you prefer to work with Iran or the United States, I think that the answer is very clear. So the sanctions will be imposed again. The economic situation will be as bad as it is, maybe even worse. So the Iranian will, I would say, try to center themselves around there, and I think that they will give up in Syria because the pressure that Israel puts and because of the Russians. Okay, the Russians sees. I mean, they were very happy when President Trump said that he is withdraw his forces from Syria. He didn't do it yet. Mostly northeast of Syria, and he didn't do it. And they think that the clashes or the punching each other in Syria between Israel and the Iranians is not in their favor, and it's not in their interest. So they will interfere and try to stop. And I think that the one that they can stop, it's not us, because Netanyahu made it very clear that we won't stop, and they have to go and to cut a deal with the Iranians. Probably when they see what the Western world is doing it right now, maybe they will offer them some trades or things or other things to keep them out of Syria or to end their presence in Syria. So I think they will centralize in Tehran and Iran, and they will leave Syria. But it's yet to be seen. I think that our strategy is strong enough to make it
this point.
So, as I've been observing, I ran throughout the entirety of the nuclear deal negotiations. You could see Zarif bragging about having tricked the Europeans, having tricked the Americans. You could see him smirking and smiling all over the place when he knew he got the better of folks like Kerry, and Kerry was playing a fool. And it just occurred to me that there's something extreme in Persian culture that I don't see holding a candle in other cultures with regard to humiliating the other, whoever the other is, and then showing yourself in front of your fellow countrymen, saying, I'm the one who humiliates, I'm the humiliator. And that puts you somehow in a privileged position. And I think it probably is also working the opposite direction. And also, if you think about, you go into anyone's living room, anywhere in the world, and no living room is going to have the ostentatious displays relative to the position of the person doing the display as a Persian living room, where you have the silver tea service and you have the Persian rug. And you go into any other middle-class home anywhere in the world, you're not going to say, that's a work of art. And that must be a hugely expensive item. And I must be sitting in a prince's living room. Doesn't happen anywhere else. So my question is, first of all, to what extent is what I'm saying true? Because I think both of you know Persian culture far better than I do. And what ramifications does it have now that Trump has humiliated the Persians, now that Israel has humiliated the Persians twice in 2 weeks? What impact is this going to have when the Persian people say, okay, now our leadership has crossed the line. Never mind our impoverishment. Now they have caused our leaders to be humiliated. We're not going to stand for that. Can you speak to all these issues?
To come now to this psychoanalysis of cultures, it's very dangerous. I tell you what, I don't think they like to humiliate others. They have this sense of superiority. Iran is a country of classes. Everyone knows his position, almost like the Japanese. They are also cruel in many ways.
Also?
Cruel. They can humiliate and kill their enemies, and you don't want to be their enemy. So it's, I think that they believe, and I started saying something about the sense of superiority. They are the chosen people. They were supposed to be the successors of the Prophet Muhammad. And they have been humiliated. They are not on the side of humiliating, they have been humiliated. They have 12 imams. 11 of them were killed young. The 12th one disappeared to return as a Messiah one day. He was smart, he went away, he disappeared. It's a sad religion. There's a professor of Columbia University that I don't agree with him anything what he says about the Palestinians. Implicitly he says few things about the Jews that is really Hamid Dabashi. But he said something about Shiites. He said that, and he's Shiite himself, I think he's Iranian, I think he's Muslim Shia. He said that Shiism cannot rule. It is a religion of protest. They almost have to have enemy and to fight. And therefore there is a contradiction between being Shiite and to be the government. Because the rule is to fight the government. The moment you are the government, you don't know against whom to fight. Maybe the Americans and so on. You are right at the humiliation. I can tell you. They humiliated the Iranian American sailors 2 days before the implementation day, where they captured American sailors and humiliated them, and they took a picture and a video of a soldier from the Marines or whatever, crying that they've stolen his cell phone. Gosh, you just made an agreement with Iran, with the America and the other countries. That's the way to be nice to them. So it's you are in a way right, but I cannot generalize. That's, I think that the Iranians have this sense that they are the masters. And their history is history of misery. Their religion is the religion of sadness. I lived in Iran 2 years. This is a very sad society. They don't have happy holidays. The only happy holiday that they have is the New Year, the Nowruz, which is pre-Islamic holiday. It's not Islamic. So I don't know how to answer the question. After all so many words.
My question relates to regime change. In the event the process is starting, or apparently starting, with student demonstrations and protests and so on, what could the American government do? What could Trump do? What happened under Obama, I forget what year, you remember, he was roundly, properly criticized for not doing anything. The question is, assuming it starts again, what are President Trump's options in accelerating the process and seeing that it isn't stifled again as it was last time?
Maybe this is another tough question.
I think that, it's like water under the bridge, because in 2009 was an opportunity to do something, and there was no declaration from Obama or whatever to say that we are with you, okay? Not, sending the CIA agents or whatever, pumping money into that and to do something. America is superpower, so come on. You can do a lot if you want it. You have to decide that that's the right strategy, to hold the grip and to do it. From our experience, and unfortunately it didn't work, we thought that we can change the government in Lebanon, and we failed. So, and as Professor Menashri said, the one who brought Iran to this point, is mainly the United States and the coalition that ruined Iraq. The one who formed ISIS, yes, it's also the Americans. Because the troops in Iraq and their generals were ready to give up and to join the United States. They refused. There is ISIS, a general that was in the Iraqi forces, led them. So, and you take an Israeli experience, you see Hezbollah was like a new recreation of Hamal, and you see Hamas that would take the PLO out of Gaza and would let the Hamas to become the power. So, changing regimes overall, it's a tough deal, but to back them and to help them and let them, I don't know, I cannot focus it, but let the people do the job, but you have to support it. In this way or another, maybe it will succeed, maybe it will succeed.
How concerned are you about the arsenal of Hezbollah, which, from what I've read, is far more significant than Gaza in terms of the numbers and of the power of the missiles, and that transfer is in direct violation of UN resolutions? Would it make any sense right now for the Trump administration, with Israel's encouragement, to make that an issue and pushing back and addressing the question of those 100,000 missiles, which one day could rain down upon Israel at Iran's direction?
I will go back to this gentleman over there, that there is not enough room to humiliate the Iranians again. They won't accept any deal with Lebanon right now and Hezbollah. Those, the way that you balance it is deterioration. The fact is that since 2006, this is a very quiet border. It's not because they like us and they didn't become Zionists and singing a tikva. They understand the consequences of using their power. So and they were really involved in a very bad situation in Syria, although they gained a very good experience fighting. Okay, and we can tell that they're fighting much more better than they did in 2006 because they got experienced with the fighting zones that they were involved in Syria. Look, when you divide, they have about 110,000 rockets and missiles in Lebanon. Okay, this is the numbers. More than half of that, like 60,000 rockets, are 122 rockets, that the range is up to 40 kilometers, and the warhead is less than, it's between 75 to 120 kilos. Okay. And they're not precise. It's like you fire them and the CP is very, very large.
But if you fire on Haifa,
Yeah.
they don't have to be precise.
No, but it's 40 kilometers. In order to fire in Haifa, you have to bring it close to the border. And now, you know, no one sits and doing nothing. I mean, the intel collection that we are doing in Lebanon, it's 24/7. Okay, and we have a very good understanding, and more than that, what they are doing. And just part of it we reveal from time to time. Okay, when you read something in Syria that they thought that you never know about it, it's one thing. When you reveal that you got into Tehran and took their archive, it's something else. Okay, so it means that when you expose it to the lights, they understand that they are vulnerable, and you are there. So, and they don't know what else you know. Okay, so it's like we deter them, they deter us. No one wants right now any clashes. Now, you know, we cannot forecast the future, but I think that the strategy that we put in Lebanon was that, okay, we put our red lines and we keep our promises. So I don't see Nasrallah. Look, Nasrallah from even those days, it's like 2006, 12 years since the war over there, he never appears in public. I mean, all his speeches are video conferences and screens. He never got up from his bunker to see the light. He knows that we are after it. And according to the foreign sources, we had some chances to gun him down, but we didn't do it. And he knows it. So we take it under consideration. We have, with American help, of course, mainly money, our Iron Dome, that we have some dozens of them spread over Israel. It's not enough, but it's more than we were expected to have those days. We have our industry. I'm part of it right now, that we're trying to develop some new means in order to gun down those rockets and missiles, mainly high power laser. And we will be there. It will take us a year or two. We will be there.
I heard the lasers don't work in clouds.
Okay.
So then just wait for a cloudy day, and it helps you nothing. Meanwhile, you
yeah, but you know,
what works.
when you open a war, it's not one day, and you have other means than high power laser, because we don't have it right now. So, you know, usually you have other means, and it will be one of the systems that we will use. Because for cost effectiveness is, I mean, right now to gun down a Qassam rocket that they spend $1,000 to build, we fire a $40,000 missile against it, okay, or fragments. So it's cost effectiveness. It's the calculation is just it's not in favor of us.
Maybe there's a lot of questions. I'm going to collect 2 or 3 questions.
First of all, thank you very much.
Please be brief. We're running. We have like 15 minutes left.
I just want to share with you what we're subjected to as English speakers here in the last few days. You know, if you put on the BBC, or if you go to the Israel Policy Forum, they have a conference call with General Yadlin's INSS out of Tel Aviv University. So a woman named, or a professor named
Sima.
Sima, yesterday she threw dust and smoke in our faces so that we get so confused. And
What did she say?
well, basically, she gave a John Kerry speech for lack of anything else. But just like the BBC, it was like listening to the BBC.
She worked with our Ministry of Strategic Affairs.
Yes, she has beautiful credentials, right?
Yes.
Amazing credentials.
She was a Mossad woman.
Yeah, a Mossad lady. And commanders for peace. No offense, General. You know, these are all generals.
No commanders of peace, commander for
Commanders for
Israel
Israel
security.
security.
I'm part of them, by the way.
No,
So
there
the-
were a group of something like 30, not many of the major generals, but I think that the lieutenant generals and so on, they issued a statement just a couple of weeks ago. They went to Washington to speak with Congress to prevent decision to withdraw from the. This is not part of this group that you remember, but as individuals. That,
Okay. Yes.
Whatever.
So my question is, well, basically, what's going on with INS? What's going on with IP? How are we supposed to have a straight view, a clear-headed view of this international situation? If this is all we do is study it every minute, read everything we can, listen to it all, and we get the dust thrown in my eyes. One other thing, just briefly, Rouhani was right about, he was on the right side. He just forgot about the Electoral College. And you see,
Yeah. I'm still thinking about what he said. I mean, it's a complicated issue, and there are going to be people on different sides of it. Yes, I have a question for Debbie Menashri. I'm thinking throughout this about Iranian Jews also. So given the highly visible role that Israel played in the ending of this nuclear treaty, or the United States role, and the reimposition of sanctions, do you have any thoughts about how this might rebound on the Iranian Jewish community? Because it seems to me to be a rather, sketchy and a worrisome situation. And I have another question for you, but I'll drop it. Maybe I'll ask you another time. Okay.
Just, we didn't talk about Turkey, which I think is an important, character in this whole, drama. And also, the other day, I was just very curious, there was a threat by Israel on Assad's life. And I just thought that was kind of strange, and I really didn't understand what they were trying to do with that, because I think Assad is basically has no control of his of what's going on there, and I just thought why there has to be a reason why Israel did that. So I was just curious about that.
He regained control in his country thanks to Iranians and the Russians. There are some parts right now in Syria that he is not in control in, but they are limited. So I can't recall the trait of his life. I was commanding the 36th Division in Golan Heights, and it was one of my goals, but just in wartime. Okay, that time, 10 years ago. Anyway, what I'm saying is that I'll go back to the remarks in here about Sima Shine and the other people in Israel. And it's good. We're democracy. People can talk and can express their views, and if you are not in uniform, you can basically say whatever you want if you don't expose any secrets from your knowledge from your past. Okay, so it's good that we have different views, but we have elected government, and we are a democracy. So the decisions that this government does, that's our strategy, and I can tell you, knowing it, not just from gossip, that the way that they handled the Iranian, to prevent Iran from establishing its military power in the Golan Heights, in Syria, it's a long venture, and it's well orchestrated, well organized, and it's not for political reasons. Okay, that's what I know. Okay, and I'm still in reserves, and I'm assisting our chief, so I'm in it. About Syria, what I can tell is that we still think in Israel that Syria without Assad it's a better deal for Israel. Okay. Now, to gun him down, it's not too complicated. Okay. We probably know where he sleeps, when he goes to his mistress, and what he does in his free time. Okay. We're good intel.
Russia would not be too happy with that.
So I don't know who was threatening him, but I don't think that's a way that Israel will do. And if something happened, we will deny it, of course, just for
There was a
foreign.
There was a public reference on Israeli officials.
Israeli
Reported
official.
in the Western
If
press.
Syria would attack Israel.
No, I knew that our Minister of Education, Mr. Bennett, said that if there were a war in the Middle East, or Syria will become Vietnam for the Iranians, and Lebanon goes 4 decades back. So that's what I heard. I didn't hear this one, but I'll check.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's official, or someone retired like me that expresses views. Okay.
You didn't say anything about Turkey because you have already had a mistake with Turkey.
I didn't mistake. No. In
No, I gave you
2000,
the chance to.
in 2007, when we have a classical operation in Gaza, I was the chief of the ground forces, and my troops were fighting in Gaza. And Mr. Erdogan said that we are doing criminal things, war criminals in war crimes in Gaza, like killing children and elderly and raping women, and I told him, look, our values are much more higher than yours, and if you are criticizing us, go and see what you have done as a nation to the Kurds, to the Armenians, and Cyprus, and so on and so forth. So they called our ambassador for explanations that Friday night, and I will get no from the chief. That's it. But years after, you've seen what happened with Turkey. So yeah, it's an important country, and
This family comes from Turkey.
yeah, my parents immigrated in '49 from Turkey. So since then, I never traveled to Turkey, even not to transit.
The threat was from Yuval Steinmetz.
Yuval?
Yes, you are saying we will kill him.
He said they'll kill Assad.
If
His blood would be forfeit.
He said we will kill him.
What position does he hold?
He's energy minister,
He's
but
the
he was
minister
the
of energy.
strategic minister and finance
And he's very
minister.
close to Netanyahu.
He's a smart guy.
Yes, he's a professor, a philosopher. Philosophy.
Very briefly, I'm not going to speak about INSS, which is another part of Tel Aviv University, but I just said, Simon Shani, to protect the dignity of my fellow professors, she's not a professor. Research in the Research Institute, and I tell you, as someone who founded the field of Iranian studies in Israeli universities, and I think almost all professors of Iranian studies, not all, but
Many of them.
many of them are my students, and I'm very proud of them. They know history of Iran, they know the Today, what happens with these media, that there are so many experts about Iran that they once say, they have not read 2 articles about Iran, but they are everyone. I don't speak about Simon Shah because she's more knowledgeable. So everyone today is an expert on everything. Now, I want to touch about 2 issues, and also say a word about the Jews. One is that, they say we didn't speak about Turkey. You know what? We didn't speak about the Palestinians as well. And I think that this is our problem. For me, for years and years, I think 35 years, I'm going all over to explain that Israel is not the only, or the Palestinian issue is not the only problem in the Middle East. Now I'm trying to say, I was speaking in Woodrow Wilson last year, saying, after 2 hours of no Palestinians, I said, you know what, there is also another problem in the Middle East, which is the Palestinians. And I think that things have really changed. Not that I am a lover of the Palestinians, but I think that today, had we had a better policy, or some signs of movement with the Palestinians, we could have had better relations with Saudi Arabia, official relations with Saudi Arabia and some of the moderate Arab countries. So I think that it's, for me, it's a mistake not to somehow, and Israel is a small country, they cannot deal with few things together, especially when it comes to an issue of very serious disagreement within the Israeli society. So I put it on the table and take it out of my chest that I think that this issue should also be addressed for the good of Israel, not because of the good of the Palestinians. The other thing for me that I am concerned is that recently the whole issue of Iran has been identified with Israel. Even when President Trump speaks about his withdrawal from the nuclear deal, he mentions Israel. I am not happy with it. Because everyone today, many people in America, in our intellectual circles, they already start blaming Israel for everything that goes wrong. They criticize us for encouraging America to go to war in 2003. And the last thing that I want as an Israeli, that an American will blame us for pushing their young men and women to go to war and shed their blood because of the Israelis. And this also gave credibility to some legend that the Jews are controlling the world and controlling the world.
And the weather.
And the weather.
And the weather. They blame the Rothschild.
So I think that for me, it is disturbing. And I would have preferred a lower key policy by the Israeli government. Let things happen, influence but don't jump. But Israelis are, always vocal and also have to make statements. And I think that this is, for me, is a concern. About the Jews of Iran, I'm not that concerned. Because they are 40 years living there, because they have decided to live there. They didn't get out of the country. And so far, I know, I think 11 Jews have been executed so far, or something like that.
During the time of the revolution, not
Since the revolution.
Since the revolution.
Yeah, something 11 or maybe 12. And each of them is a war in itself. And they were executed because they are Jews. When the head of the Jewish community, Habib al-Kanayan, was executed, he was the first civilian, not military and not official, that was executed as the Jewish billionaire, and blamed him to be Zionist and support him. But they are, all in all, they are fair to the Iranian Jews. There is discrimination, of course, but because the Iranian Jews are loyal to the government. Whenever they want someone to speak against Netanyahu, they pick up the head of the Jewish community. They're doing their job. They're doing their job. So I don't want to say, I was very concerned in the early days of the revolution. But then I saw that they learn to live with it. But I'd say another way to address your question. Israel policy towards Iran should not be hostage because of Jews who live in Iran. Israel should do what is good to the people of Israel. There are more Iranian Jews than Jews in any other Muslim country.
20 to 30,000, he just asked, 20 to 30,000?
It's even less, but there are more Jews in Iran than the rest of Muslim world combined. That to Israel is the death to Israel, death to Israel, and the Jews of Iran continue to live. Let me tell you a story. Some 20 years ago, the Argentinian team was commissioned to prepare a film about Iranian Jews. And when I saw this advertising and promo, they say before, a week before, I was scared to death. They showed in synagogue in Tehran, the rabbi prays for the well-being of the soldiers of the IDF. And I say, gosh, you are going to show it? They will kill this rabbi, you know? Now, the rabbi, poor rabbi, he thought it's part of the tefillah. He didn't know that it's something not normal. So they continued with this. Now, I went to the television, my friend, Ehud Yahavi, was in Channel 2, and said, yeah, hey, it's crazy. What you are going to show? They will be punishing the Jews. And I thought wisdom would convince them to take out this part. I was wrong, because this gives them more exposure and more credibility or whatever. So the Jews are living there and they're praying for the well-being of the Chayalei Tzva Haganah Israel.
So on that note, I promised General Mizrachi and Professor Menashri that we would stop at 4:30 or a few minutes over. So on behalf of everybody here, thank you for coming. They have to go.